Hey guys, Lawrence here. Welcome back to another AIRTOC demo. In today's lesson, we're focusing in on one of the most powerful performance measurement tools in project management, the Earned Value Analysis Report. Earned Value Analysis allows you to measure progress objectively, not based on opinions or status updates, but real measurable performance data. First, I'll give you a quick overview of what EVA is, why it matters, and how project managers use EVA reports in monitoring and controlling. Then I'll walk you through a live AIRTOC demo where we'll generate a full earned value analysis report using the AIMPM Project Management Coach. Let's go. As always, we like to start with the definition. According to PMI, EVA is a technique for integrating scope, schedule, and resource measurements to assess project performance during its life cycle. EVA compares the planned work and corresponding budget to the actual progress and expenditures, enabling a project manager to determine whether the project is on track with respect to cost and schedule performance. Very long definition. Let's break this down in a much more simple way to understand. Now, our definition aligns with PMI, but a bit more detail always helps. We define EVA as a method for determining project performance, a simple tool that compares planned value, earned value, and actual costs that are associated with the project. It's a way to calculate the schedule and the cost variances, and it's a way to forecast project outcomes before problems actually occur. This aligns for the most part with PMI's definition, but it's a bit more simple. Now, before we can perform any earned value analysis, first we need to understand the four key variables that everything is built on. Planned value, or PV, represents how much of the work should have been completed at this point in the project, and that's based on the project plan. Earned value, or EV, represents how much work actually has been completed, measured in terms of the budgeted value for that work. Actual cost, or AC, shows how much we've actually spent so far to accomplish the work that we've performed. And finally, budget at completion, or BAC, is the total approved budget for the entire project. Now, these four numbers form the foundation of all EVA calculations. Once we know PV, EV, AC, and BAC, we can start analyzing project performance. Now, let's walk through some of the EVA formulas themselves. These calculations allow us to evaluate schedule performance, cost performance, and future projections. We start with the variances. Schedule variance, or SV, is calculated as EV minus PV. If EV is less than PV, we're behind schedule. If it's greater, then we're ahead of schedule. Cost variance, or CV, is calculated as EV minus AC. A negative CV means that we're over budget, while a positive CV means that we're under budget. Next, let's look at the performance indexes, which turn variance into ratios. Essentially, SPI, the schedule performance index, is EV divided by PV. And SPI below 1.0 tells us that we're progressing slower than planned. CPI, the cost performance index, is EV divided by AC. A CPI below 1.0 means we're spending more than we're earning in the completed work. And finally, we move to forecasting. Estimate at completion, or EAC, is calculated as BAC divided by CPI. This projects the total cost of the project if current cost performance continues. Estimate to complete, or ETC, is EAC minus AC, essentially how much more money we expect to spend from this point moving forward. And variance at completion, or VAC, is BAC minus EAC, showing whether we expect to finish under or over budget. Now, we understand that that's a lot of information to take in, but it's important that you understand the importance of EVA. Together, these formulas give us a full picture of the schedule health, the cost health, and the future performance of the project, all from just a few core variables. Now, needless to say, there's a lot to remember here, and most times PMs don't include this information in their status reports unless someone requests it. But don't worry, AIRTOC makes this process a lot easier, and it allows you not only to get the calculations you need, but also gain insights to go along with those calculations. Now, the EVA report is incredibly valuable for several reasons. They provide objective performance data, right? So it's not our feelings. This is actually what's happening based on the numbers. It identifies early warning signs, quantifies schedule and cost performance, helps the PMs forecast the final cost for a completion date, support accurate executive reporting, enable fact-based decision-making, and reduces surprises for stakeholders. Most importantly, though, EVA gives project managers the ability to say, here's what's happening, and here's what may happen if we stay on this trajectory. And since EVA is mathematical, it removes ambiguity and emotion from status discussions, which is extremely important when you're presenting project status to leadership. In monitoring and controlling, earned value analysis reports are used to guide decisions and maintain control over your project performance. If you're able to track EVA, you're able to quantify the project health, numbers-wise, without prejudice. If you're able to quantify project health through numbers, then you can communicate variances early when those numbers are off. If I can communicate variance early, I can make the case for appropriate changes, which allows me to adjust the project schedule, the budget, or the resources when I need to. Where changes are made, I can validate the success of those changes by using the same EVA processes. Executives rely on EVA reports because they provide a clear numerical summary of performance. They show variance and trends over time, and they offer grounded predictions of final cost and completion dates. EVA reports are one of the most trusted tools for objective project performance measurement. EVA calculations and reports are fairly simple in theory, but we know that they can be confusing. So, AIMPM makes them a lot easier to produce, and yes, you guessed it, there's an AIRTOC template for that. Now that we've covered the fundamentals of earned value analysis and why EVA reports matter, let's walk through how to build one using the AIRTOC framework. I'm going to switch over to the live demo and show you exactly how to structure the AIRTOC prompt for this deliverable. Okay, folks, before we get started on EVA, we want to make sure that you understand a few things before we dive into our demonstration. For the sake of time and simplicity, we'll be using simulated minimal data. In real projects, you'll probably have a lot more context to add into your prompt. Second, even with simplified data, you'll still see how powerful AIRTOC prompts can be, but remember, the more context you add, the better the output. And lastly, this process applies to every AIRTOC template in the textbook. The workflow is universal and repeatable across all deliverables. Let's dive in. All right, so before we start the demonstration, we're going to cover all of the different components that you're going to see within the demonstration. The first is your AIRTOC template, Earned Value Analysis Reports. This is the same template that you're going to find in your AIRTOC library, as well as your textbooks. Below that, as always, we have our real-world scenario, which is going to feed the information into our actual prompt that we're going to use inside of the AIMPM Project Management Coach. All right, and again, we like to break out the context into really two different roles here, one for the inputs for context and the second for the data inputs. All right, and last but not least, we'll go into our AIMPM Project Management Coach, add the query, and watch the magic happen. Let's start. Okay, so starting off with the AIRTOC template, the framework remains the same. On the left-hand side, you're going to have your AI platform, your role, task, and output, as well as your context. And again, your context is broken out into two sections here, which we'll cover in a sec. Last but not least, you have your AI produces, which is really, again, just an example of what AI should produce for you when you put this prompt in. Okay, so this is the template. On the right-hand side here for our AI platform, we're going to recommend ChatGPT or Gemini. For the role, we have a project controls analyst or a project manager. The task here is to draft an earned value analysis report by calculating and formatting standard EVM metrics. And our output should be a draft EVA report with CPI, SPI, cost, schedule variances, and forecasts. Next, after that, we have our inputs for context. Again, very high level information that you can probably grab from your project charter. This is information like your scope, your baseline problem and goal, your constraints, your risks, your stakeholders. And on top of that, we have additional data, our planned value, earned value, actual costs, and the EVM formulas that we would want AI to use in order to produce this report. So that's our template. Let's get into our scenario. Our scenario says, midway through the workflow automation program, leadership requested a detailed assessment of the schedule and cost performance, given rising concerns about integration delays. Vendor invoices showed higher than planned hours, and finance required validation of whether the project was tracking towards an overrun, triggering the need for formal EVM calculations. Progress reporting from technical leads revealed that actual work completed, EV, lagged behind the planned value, PV, raising questions about timeline impacts. PMO governance standards mandated weekly EVA reporting whenever CPI or SPI trends drop below 1.0, prompting the project controls analyst to generate updated metrics. To support steering committee forecasting and decision-making, the PM was instructed to produce a EVA report summarizing CPI, SPI, variances, and EAC projections. So that's our scenario. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we would add into our actual template. So again, here we have our AI platform and role, task, and output. These won't change. The main pieces of information you're going to need is within the context and data. So again, our inputs for context, high-level data. This is our scope, our baseline problem and goal, our constraints, risks, and stakeholders. And this is all information we may have gathered from meetings, our charter, or other areas of detail. Below that, we have really the main components of what we need to present for an EVA calculation, which is our planned value, which is $260,000, our earned value, which is $230,000, and our actual cost, which is currently at $255,000. So based on this information here, we're going to take this and copy it. And we're just going to jump into our project management coach and paste it in. And again, as long as you're providing the proper amount of context, AI will be able to make this calculation for you, and you don't have to do the math yourself to get these variables out. All right, so we're just going to hit enter, and let's see what AI produces for us. All right, and again, if AI is thinking, that means that it's taking some time to make sure it's calculating things properly before it spits out an output. And this is fine. I like to see this because it means that the AI is really considering all of the different constraints that I put in place for it here. And again, very minimal query, but let's see what we get. All right. Now it's starting to go through some logic here. And this is good because I want to make sure that AI is presenting something that's accurate. Okay, so it's doing some calculations here. Okay. This is exactly what I want to see for something like an EVA calculation. It's dealing with numbers, right? And so ultimately it has to be accurate. That's one thing that's built into the AIMPM Project Management Coach. It is going to give you accurate information. It will not hallucinate points. And so if it takes a while to think through these things and come up with each calculation, you want to let it proceed there. Okay. So what are we going to get for our EVA report? We have an executive summary. We have the current performance snapshot. Okay. So it's breaking out each individual calculation. Okay, which is great because we don't have to really think, right, when it comes down to these formulas. You know, one of the biggest problems with producing something like an EVA report is having to go and, number one, collect the numbers, but second, to do all of these different calculations and then put them into a format that makes sense. And so that's what AI is doing for us here. Okay, let's see what else we have. Cost performance analysis. So it starts to break that down. Okay. Possible cost drivers to be validated, cost impact for stakeholders. Next, we're getting our SPI, right? Schedule performance. All right. We're getting some forecasts here, some data quality assumptions and risks, right? And again, this is a full report, maybe 80 to 90% complete report of a EVA. And it's still going here. We have some recommended actions as well. I forgot to mention data quality assumptions and risks are added. Okay, and it's breaking this out in a very easy to read format. Everything is sectioned. Everything has a hierarchical view. And it even adds in an appendix for us, all right, with all of the different calculations that we used within this EVA report. Let me ask you a question. How long do you think it would have taken you to actually draft this report on your own, considering that you would have had to do all of these calculations to get the accurate numbers, then put those calculations into perspective, and then draft out performance analysis, right? Forecast analysis. This is an entire EVA report that was produced in maybe 2 to 3 minutes based on a very minimal prompt that we gave it. Okay. And this, again, is the power of AIRTOC and the AIMPM Project Management Coach. It's able to take a very minimal set of information and draft out a fully functional 80 to 90% complete document that you may have to update one or two things on. From here, I can take this, load this up into a Word document. I can download this into a Word document. There's many different functions that I can use from this point, right? I can take all of this and start to elaborate on this information if I have more context that I want to add. And again, this is the power of AIRTOC. Hopefully you guys are finding this stuff useful. Let's go ahead and move on to the next video. We'll see you there.